Yo, what's good? It's your boy B-Dell. I'm back with some more unraveling information. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button. But today I'm going to be deciphering the esoteric symbolism of the movie Nope and how it's connected to predictive analysis and psychological and social programming in the name of full disclosure about the reality of extraterrestrial life on the planet. But in order to understand this, you have to have an intuitive understanding about the dynamics of the movie industry, because it's universal law that they got to give you the truth in these movies, because the CIA has an office in Hollywood and Hollywood has an office in the CIA. So they give you the truth in the form of entertainment to keep you asleep, right? So with all that shit being said, we finna break this shit all the way down. This is gonna be a really good one. And I got a lot of, incriminating information to dispel to you guys today. So now when you're talking about the movie Nope, when you look at the movie poster, right? When you look at the movie poster, it shows you that there's an extraction process starting to take place in the form of a rapture. It basically symbolizes a rapture and is being extracted into a cloud. So when you understand aerodynamics and UFOlogy, you will know that a spaceship has the ability to transmute itself and go into fourth octave ether. Ether is basically an amalgamation of gases. So it was able to cloak itself. So the cloaking technology was mostly predicated upon the fact that it basically used the technological grid as a usurpation process to extract energy from the three-dimensional world, the technological devices, and basically cloak itself. Because in the movie, when the spaceship was able to reveal itself, right, all technology was basically working. So the usurpation process started, it basically starts when it steals energy from all technological devices. So also in the movie, when the extraction process starts to take place due to the cloaking device of the UFO, that's when Daniel, the main character, his father died. And I'm gonna show you a picture of him. So when you're looking at this picture right here, this where when his dad got hit in the eye with a dime, that is basically the symbology of the fact that it's an alignment to economic crash, because it was a dime in his eye, and the president that's on the dime is Franklin D. Roosevelt, right? And there's an esoteric connection to that. So now when you look at that aspect of it, we're gonna go all the way to Franklin D. Roosevelt. Franklin D. Roosevelt, uh, who was known as FDR, right? And he was in presidency all the way up until his death in 1945, right? So, but he's basically in alignment to the fact that he is the president that basically concocted Social Security, because this was basically a form of social insurance during the Great Depression. Because it says that right here verbatim that Social Security Act was enacted August 14, 1935, basically concocted by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Now, why is that important? That is important because that is basically showing you the precursor to an economic crash that's going to happen on the planet, which is also in alignment to a pestilence, and it's also in alignment to the fact that there's going to be all types of desolation on the planet that's basically simultaneously connected to economic crash. So now when you look at the history of the Social Security, like I said, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the Social Security bill into law on August 14th, right? So because this is important, because that was the transmutation of the money losing the gold standard and then acclimating itself into a fictitious fiat currency system, because currency during that time, it hasn't been backed by gold since 1934. So the 1935 bill that Franklin D. Roosevelt signed was basically concocted because that was basically used as a way to turn people into humanoid real estate, right? So they gave us social security numbers. So now, like I said, when you look at the father's eye, right? He was hitting the eye with a dime. Hold on for a second. He was hitting the eye with a dime that basically symbolizes the fall of an economic system, because right now we're in a state of, hyperinflation right now. So it's only a matter of time before uh, the economic system crashed. Because when you understand the history of all fiat currency, it was 3,800 fiat currencies all throughout civilization, all throughout history, and they all failed because it wasn't backed by an intrinsic resource, right? So now, when you look at it from that aspect of it, now this is also in alignment to the fact that when you're talking about Daniel in the movie, the main character, right? The guy who played in Get Out, the main character, once you unscramble the words, it's basically an anagram to the word alien. So in my opinion, this is just my, me theorizing about the movie. I think that the sham and the UFO that came back to that geographical location where he was located, I think they was coming back to get him. That's why if you notice everybody in the movie, they was all in a state of pandemonium, and they was basically trying to get. The UFO was basically destroying the people except Daniel. You see what I'm saying? That's just me theorizing about the movie. That's just my own hypothesis, right? So now, when you understand the dynamics of the movie was shot in Los Angeles County, northern Los Angeles County, which is kind of close by Mount Lee and Hollywood. So this is an esoteric connection because when you understand the geographical locations, right? The Hollywood sign is in Mount Lee. And there's also been, speculations and conspiracy theories about a reptilian catacombs inside the Hollywood Hills, right? So now I'm going to show you. There's a map, but first I'm going to show you the fact that this is all in alignment to the Los Angeles underground tunnels and the lizard people, and it is basically specifies in this book right here called "Behold a Pale Horse." Right, in this book right here, it tells you that there's a Los Angeles underground tunnels that leads to the Vatican, right, and there's a underground shuttle that basically takes you from America all the way to Rome, Italy, to the Vatican, right? So now I'm going to scroll down here for a second. Now this basically coincides to the hollow Earth theory, because when you understand the esoteric connection to it, it tells you that there's an advanced civilization of many different extraterrestrial species, and that was basically assimilated by Billy Meyer, right? And he basically entailed the fact that those uncharted civilizations was basically inhabited by reptilians, right? The reptilians that basically govern this three-dimensional world. So now, when you look at it from that aspect of it, I'm gonna go show you a map of the underground tunnels in Hollywood, because this is important, because the area where they shot the movie is the same area where these Hollywood Hills is. You see what I'm saying? So this is basically a map inside Mount Lee, inside northern county of Los Angeles. So screenshot this if you want to, but I'm just showing you the reality of what's going on, because the person who gave the reality of that allegory wrote this book right here called "Behold a Pale Horse." This is the book that woke me up, and the reason this is basically in alignment to this book, because when you look at the movie poster, it shows you that there's a pale horse. You see what I'm saying? Being extracted up into a cloud in the form of your so-called rapture. So this is the book. I had this book coming outside of my senior year of high school. I've had different copies or whatever, but the original copy, what I'm saying, it has a lot more information of it. But ever since 2008, they've been messing up the wordology and taking out different chapters out the book to hide the truth, because the person who basically wrote this book, they killed him from writing this book. So I approve, you know what I'm saying? It's imperative that everybody get this book. It's called Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. And he also talks about, 9/11 in this book. And he wrote this book in the 1980s. And he also talks about the reality of extraterrestrial life and UFOs and things of that nature. But we're going to get into that as we go into this video. So now, like I said, it shows you the reality of that there were basically reptilian people inside the Hollywood Hills in the same geographical landmass of where they shot the movie at, which is not a coincidence because everything they do is basically in a form of symbolism, right? So now, since we got that out the way, I'm going to show you a few videos. Now, the person I was telling you who wrote this book, Behold a Pale Horse, these are a few interviews, to him giving you the reality of everything that he's been talking about. And he was killed for putting this information out. So we're going to get started with the video.
I had a hard time believing any of it. Mm-hmm. But I saw documents that were labeled under the classification top secret and the compartmentalized compartment that was put into was called Magic, MAJIC, which told me that UFOs are real, which I already knew. I'd seen one. Right. But this went farther than that. It told me that they were extraterrestrial in origin, that there were 4 different extraterrestrial species or races visiting this Earth, and that they had actually entered into an agreement with the United States government with one of these species of alien beings to exchange technology, and it told me all the projects that was underneath this. Project Red Light was actually the testing of extraterrestrial craft. Project Plato was a diplomatic project. Pounce was the recovery of technology. Pluto was the application of that technology to our own secret space program, not the public space program. There are 2 different space programs. One is what the public gets to see, which is overseen by NASA, and the other one is a secret.
The secret space program he's basically talking about is the Majestic 12, and they basically they concoct a civilization on the moon to where they control people through frequency modification weapons, and things of that nature. But I'm going to keep going.
Program that nobody gets to see, which is really overseen by the Navy Department under specialized compartmentalized black projects, and what these people are doing in secret is just absolutely incredible. I also saw documents under an operation called Operation Majority, which outlined the plans to bring together a one world government. It also included extraterrestrial information within that. Project Grudge, which was the second project. First was Sign, and then Project Grudge, which contained all of the extraterrestrial information up to a certain point. I forget the year cutoff. And then it was contained after that in another project called Project Aquarius, which was the accumulation of the whole.
Now, let me interject for a second. Notice he said Project Aquarius, because I told you this is the age of information. So Project Aquarius is basically in alignment to the fact that, the Aquarian age is basically predicated upon the reality of them, the elite, giving us full disclosure. That's why they try to desensitize us through the movies. You see what I'm saying? They're giving you full disclosure in a form of entertainment. This is the age of Aquarius. Like I said, this is Project Aquarius. So this is the age of information. And they giving you the information, through entertainment, through the movies.
Of alien interaction on planet Earth. But I have to say at this point that I don't know if those documents were really telling the truth or not. They could have been showing me these things so that eventually I would go out and talk about this. And maybe that'll become clear to you later why they may have done that. It could be real. So.
And it's absolutely real, because he was killed for putting out these books, and they banned this book because they try to sue him for defamation of character because he stole documents because originally he was a naval intelligence officer, right? He was a naval intelligence officer, and some of the files that he came across, the documents, he stole them and he put them inside his book when they try to sue him for defamation of character, but he beat it in the Supreme Court. So I'm going to show you another video by him.
Of the governments involved, as well as the executive members of the group known as the Bilderbergers. Meetings are held by the policy committee when necessary on a nuclear submarine beneath the polar ice cap. The secrecy is such that this was the only method which could ensure that the meetings could not be bugged and is the only place where they discuss their most secret matters. I can say that the book is at least 70% true from my own knowledge and the knowledge of my sources. I believe that the disinformation was an attempt to compromise the British TV expose with information which could be proven false, just as the Eisenhower briefing document was released here in the United States under the contingency plan Majestic 12, and which can also be proven false.
I need y'all to understand something. Let me interject for a second. I need you to understand that the Majestic 12 is basically a compilation of extraterrestrials such as the Pleiadians, the Reptilians, and the Greys. And they form all these different secret societies, and they control everything in the three-dimensional world. This is the Majestic 12 is basically your Pleiadians, your Reptilians, and your Greys, and they basically control everything as far as the electrical grid on this planet.
Since our interaction with the aliens began, we have come into possession of technology beyond our wildest dreams. A craft named Aurora exists at Area 51, which makes regular trips into space. It is a one-stage ship called a TAV, or Trans-Atmospheric Vehicle. And it can take off from the ground using a 7-mile runway, go into high orbit, return on its own power, and land on the same runway. We currently have and fly atomic-powered alien craft at Area S4 in Nevada. Our pilots have made interplanetary voyages in these craft and have been to the moon, Mars, and other planets aboard these craft. There is a group of pilots at the base who wear a patch, which has a little alien peeking over the bottom. It has, I think, 3 or 4 letters at the top. I forget what they are, but John Weir knows what they are. There is a picture of Saturn and a picture of Mars in the photograph. And in the background, there are 7 stars, which are strangely shaped, just like the stars in the Pleiades group.
See what I'm saying? I told you, because the Pleiadians, see, that was basically the symbology of the fact that you got the moon and Saturn. Moon and Saturn work in synergy together because that controls the matrix through the Chronos Piscean energy, right? The three-dimensional world. And like I said, those 7 stars were basically a representation of the Pleiadian star constellation. They all work together.
What that means, I don't know. We have been lied to about the true nature of the moon, the planets Mars and Venus, and the real state of technology that we possess today at this very moment. There are areas in the moon where plant life grows and even changes color with the seasons. And the seasonal effect is because the moon does not, as claimed, always present the exact same side to the Earth or the sun. There is an area that wobbles in and out of darkness on a seasonal basis.
And also let me interject the fact that the moon is an artificial concocted megastructure. And it's basically a colonizing celestial body that steals energy from the sun to gives power to the electrical grid in the three-dimensional world. So the moon that you see is not actually the real motherfucking moon, because the real moon died 23 billion years ago when you had the extraction process of Earth, and the original moon, which is Kingu, broke off due to plutonium bombs hitting the planet and splitting the planet in half. But that's a whole other story when you're talking about the inception of creation.
Near this area that the plant life grows. The moon does have a few man-made lakes and ponds upon its surface, and clouds have been observed and filmed in its atmosphere. Many of you remember the period of time, several years, when almost every reported alien craft that was reported landed was on or near water and appeared to be pumping water into the craft. Many of you remember that? Quite a few. The water went to the moon, ladies and gentlemen, to change the moon. And it is working.
Now I got one more video by him.
I've discovered in my research are nothing more than what's left after the government does its secret tests on the low-level radiation leakage from its atomic weapons assembly plants and atomic power plants. It's a low-level radiation monitoring project. And if you look at what's missing in the cattle, you'll see that it's just as clear as day. They take the lips, they take the tongue, they take a 6-inch patch of skin, they core.
So he's basically specifying the characteristics of the Greys, because the Greys, like I told you, they're a dying race, a dying race of extraterrestrials. So they come to the three-dimensional world on planet Earth, and they steal the organs, and they steal many different biological parts of animals, and they use it to basically extend their bloodline. So that's why you have a lot of cow mutilations and things of that nature.
The rectum, the colon area, where those kinds of things would collect. They would pass through the digestive system. On female cows, they take the udder to check for low-level radiation in the milk. This is being passed to the calves, and these are all grazing animals that graze on the grass where the radiation falls when it falls from the air. It's just an incredible deception. The cattle,
right? So now, since you got that aspect of it, this is the only reason I'm showing you his videos, because I told you the main horse in the movie Note was a white horse, and his name was Ghost. This book is called Behold a Pale Horse. So this book was basically a form of full disclosure back in the 1980s, and he was killed for writing this book. So this movie is a form of full disclosure, but they give it to you in the form of entertainment. So that's the esoteric connection to that. So now, when you're talking about the pale horse, right? When you're talking about the pale horse, sometimes you got to give, biblical context to the people, because like I said, monotheistic, dogmatic belief systems is basically all people know nowadays. You know what I'm saying? So, and like I said, you got to be a scientist when you're looking for the truth. You got to learn how to take certain things out of certain theological books to where you can pull the truth out of it, right? Because like I said, if you don't understand what the fuck you're reading, you cannot read. So the symbology of a pale horse basically is a representation of calamities. It's a representation of famine, pestilence, social systems breaking down. It's basically an awakening to the fact that a lot of these, these political leaders, a lot of these pastors, a lot of these what's they called? Political figures, celebrities, or whatever, status figures. All these people are basically depictions of, people giving you false information, right? So you got false religion, which causes instability that also leads to war. So we in a state of pandemonium when you're talking about war and pestilence, because war and pestilence goes hand in hand to an economic crash, right? And you also, it talks about, plagues and many different earthquakes and things of that nature. That is a representation of what the pale horse symbolizes, right? So with all that shit being said, I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I'm pretty sure ain't nobody going to go this deep when you're talking about the breakdown of this movie, because this movie wasn't just a movie. It was basically esoteric symbolism, giving you the reality of what's going to happen in the future, right? Because like I said, in order to understand, the future, you got to know what the fuck happened in the past. So I gave you the reality of an economic crash and the symbology of the dime inside the Father's eye, which symbolizes a futuristic economic crash that we're going to have in the future, which is also in alignment to a food shortage, which is also in alignment to a war, a physical war and a spiritual war at the same time, while giving you full disclosure about the reality of extraterrestrial life, right? So with all that shit being said, get this video out there. I appreciate y'all for watching this. Hit that subscribe button. They've been unsubscribing people from my channel, like I said. So a lot of people have been hitting me up and they were like, out of nowhere, oh, I'm not subscribed to your channel no more. So hit the subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? Get the information out there. I appreciate you watching it. Thank you.